Hemlock Wooly Adelgid is an invasive pest that impacts hemlock trees in our Maine forests. And hemlock trees are keystone species in that they are really important to our forest ecology here in Maine, and they're really important for watershed health. We're working with the Freeport Conservation Trust by monitoring 5 different properties, and we have set up monitoring plots at these properties to check for the degradation of Hemlock Wooly Adelgid over time. So, for example, Powell Point has a big Hemlock Wooly Adelgid problem, and Harvey Brook does not. So our job is to see how Hemlock Wooly Adelgid progresses at these properties. And the last year, in June, we got a grant from the Gulf of Maine Research Institute for $3,000, and we were able to deploy a biological control. So they are special predatory beetles that eat just Hemlock Wooly Adelgid, and there's only 2 places in the country that make them. But Jonathan Dawson and I and another Freeport Conservation Trust person went to, where was it? It was Brimstone Trail and also Powell Point, and released 5 colonies of beetles each. So it's going to be interesting to see if that makes a difference. Now, the difference it could make is it's not going to be like night and day. How are we going to know that it's working? So what we're doing is we're looking at the density of the hemlock canopy. And so how we know that the beetles are working is if the hemlock canopy doesn't become less dense. So if there isn't a significant change over time, meaning that the canopy doesn't become less dense, then that's a good sign that the predatory beetle is working.
My favorite part about being in the Gulf of Maine class is that we go out on field trips every day, and it's very hands-on.
My favorite part about the Gulf of Maine class is that we get to go on a lot of field trips and really do some hands-on work in both the ocean areas, but also in the woods.
I think my favorite part of the Gulf of Maine class is the amount of control that we have over what we're doing and how we're doing it. In a lot of other classes, you spend a lot of time reading textbooks or getting told information and things you have to rely on. But in this one, you kind of have more dictatorship over what decisions you're making, so that's really helpful.
Yeah, it's super self-led by the students, which is fun.
So here we are on a Thursday morning, October 23rd, and it's a beautiful fall morning. We're here at Harvey Brook Preserve, which is a Freeport Conservation Trust property. And we're here with the Gulf of Maine Field Studies class. And what we're doing is we are monitoring an invasive species called Hemlock Wooly Adelgid. And Hemlock Wooly Adelgid is all over Freeport and mid-coast Maine, southern coast Maine, and it's slowly marching north and east. But the significant thing about this preserve, and if you pan up and you look at this rich hemlock canopy, these are healthy, unaffected hemlock trees. So Hemlock Wooly Adelgid is not here at this preserve. And we're actually monitoring trees at 4 other locations, and Hemlock Wooly Adelgid is at those 4 other locations. So the special thing about Harvey Brook is that it is pristine at the moment, and that's what we're hoping for. And so today we're piggybacking on some work that students last year did, and we are looking at the trees that they tagged. In the wintertime, we'll come out and we'll do a canopy evaluation, and then we are also deploying what's called soil respiration collars. I think it's really important to have 40 trees tagged here because this is the only site of the 5 properties that we're monitoring that does not have Hemlock Wooly Adelgid now.
out under the blade. Okay, look. Well, alright, let's go get it. Yep. Good fish, dude. We can snip that. Where's the snippers? Let me see if I can get it.
I think my favorite part is definitely being out in the wild. We get to spend a lot of time in the field, which is nice, and we get to be in the woods for most of our classes, so that's super fun. We also get to work with a lot of new technology that we haven't used yet. So there have been like people who've come from different colleges bringing their different sciencey materials that we get to use and we get to learn about.
And it's like actually like impacting Maine. I think that that's like a big part of like the climate issue is like our issue with the Hemlock Wooly Adelgid, and so it feels like we have somewhat of an impact.
It's interesting to see how the Hemlock Wooly Adelgid affect our community by like affecting the hemlock trees and how we get to like try and prevent it.
The most interesting thing about working with the Hemlock Wooly Adelgid is that we get to go out in the woods and see the areas in which like they have infected the trees, and we can look at the trees and see the different like needle patterns and what they've like eaten away at. There's also some locations that don't have them, which is also interesting. We also learned that there are beetles that can get rid of the Hemlock Wooly Adelgid, and they cost a lot of money, but they can restore what the Hemlock Wooly Adelgid has taken away.
So our Gulf of Maine Field Studies class is working with Maine Math and Science Alliance and the University of Maine Fort Kent with Dr. Ned Rupert Nelson. And what we're doing is we are looking to see if Hemlock Wooly Adelgid has an impact on the soil microbiome of the forest. Each forest has its own sort of soil microbiome, just like each person has their own microbiome. So what we want to do is compare all of the soil microbiomes among the 5 properties and to see what, if at all, or to what extent Hemlock Wooly Adelgid would have on it. So what we're thinking is the Hemlock Wooly Adelgid frass, if it impacts the microbiome, and what does that mean? Does that mean that the soil can cycle carbon the same way? What does it mean? And so we're also taking soil samples from these places, and we're going to determine if the soil organic carbon content is different among the sites. And we're also deploying soil respiration collars on the forest floor on each site, and we have this really expensive and funky piece of equipment from UMaine Fort Kent right now that was lent to us, and we're going to take soil respiration data from each of these collars, and that's going to tell us what the rate of soil respiration is, and that's going to give us an indication of how healthy the soil is. What are the microbes doing? And so we can measure their amount of respiration or CO2 being released from the soil, and that's going to give us an idea of how the soil microbiome is doing as far as like its job.